I'm Alistair Mackenzie. I have two guests with me from the top of the tree, as it were, in Northern Territories. Immediately on my left, I have the Minister of Tourism and Major Events, Matt Conlan, who has, I think, only become Minister fairly recently. I think it was last year. And in a sense, I've also got another new boy as well, because I'd like to introduce Tony Mayell, who is the new CEO of Tourism Northern Territory. So welcome to you both. But the idea is that we're going to be taking questions from you guys and also from those who are just watching. And you can reach us through the normal channels, as they say. You can reach us through Twitter, you can reach us through Facebook, you can reach us through Google+, and you can reach us also on the YouTube channel as well, using that hashtag NTLive. We need to establish, first of all, the Northern Territory. Tell us where it is and how much it encompasses.
Well, it covers 1/6 of Australia's landmass. Actually, it's an enormous part of the country. It's about 1.5 million square kilometres. It's a huge, absolutely huge part of the continent. As I say, it's 1/6 of Australia's landmass. But having said that, it's only about 230,000 people live there. So we've got plenty of room to move. In fact, a lot of people love to come to the Territory because it has got that. It's got space, room to move, and plenty of opportunity as well. You know, we like to encourage people to come to the Territory to further their careers. You can climb the ladder, I think, a lot easier than you can in larger markets, particularly here in London, where it's so competitive, and cities like London, large international cities such as this, which are so competitive.
We've had one question that's come in from Ron Mader, who is very big, I know, on responsible travel. And he was asking to what extent it's possible to interact with the Aboriginals, with the locals, and to practice, in effect, responsible tourism, and to make sure that what you spend in Northern Territories is going to the right places.
Yeah, look, great question from Ron, and it's something that we see obviously is again been quite unique to the Territory. Not to say there aren't other Indigenous experiences around Australia, but for us, the environment, cultural landscape and the natural landscape, I mean, that's king for us. And so whatever we do when we're working with Indigenous operators to help them bring their product to the market, it's around sustainability of the environment, it's around sustainability of their business, and it's about making sure that we've got those principles right in how we present that product to the marketplace. If we destroy the asset, then we've lost it forever. So Indigenous people are very, very attached to their land and to their country and have great stories to tell about it. And those are the things that are great assets for us in bringing to the market. So look, we would like to see more Indigenous product in the marketplace for sure. We work hard with Indigenous, the Indigenous tourism sector to get more product in front of the market. But certainly, I think it just doesn't apply to the Indigenous tourism sector in the Territory. It's about responsible tourism overall.
How do they actually engage? How do they plug into to that initiative, the Responsible Tourism Initiative and local tourist initiatives with Aboriginals?
Sure. Well, look, there's obviously quite a deal of product that's out there, so it's available as if you buy a city coach tour, you can buy a cruise tour in the top end, you can buy a cultural bush tucker tour in Central Australia. So there's those opportunities mainstream, but certainly...
And they can find all that through you?
Yeah, absolutely, through our website, through the local regional tourism bodies, of which we have two in the Territory, Tourism Top End and Tourism Central Australia. But other organisations like Voyages are doing a fantastic job at Ayers Rock. So if you go to Ayers Rock Resort, which until very recently was Australia's largest resort, which a lot of people weren't aware of, they have really created some fantastic opportunities for interaction with the local Indigenous people there. So you become part of dot painting workshops and those sort of things. That interaction is priceless.
Can I give a plug for the Papunya boards? I think might be in order to lead into that question. These are very sacred pieces of artwork that until just recently have never been seen by anyone except for some very senior traditional Aboriginal men. They were painted by these men back in the very early 70s, late 60s, early 70s. And of the 260 odd pieces of art, 160 or so, 180 or so, have now been deemed. They've gone through the sacred sites process, which is a pretty important process that we have in the Northern Territory. And it's gone through that, and so these pieces of art have been deemed that it's okay for the general public to view. But there are still about 60 odd pieces of art that still cannot be seen by anyone apart from these very senior, traditional, initiated men.
And we think never will be?
And they never will be. So of these 180 or so that have just been made available...
It's a very rare opportunity.
These would be the crown jewels of the Northern Territory. I mean, this is, for us, this is like the unearthing Tutankhamun's grave. I mean, it's really that significant. And not to be underestimated. It's not just a couple of guys from the territory trying to talk up the art scene. The Papunya boards, they're called boards as in because they were essentially painted on just bits of masonite, bits of anything they could find. You need to understand Papunya is a remote community in the Northern Territory, and these were very senior men of the times, traditional elders. In fact, only one is still living. So we now have a couple of those on display in one of our premier art galleries in Alice Springs, the Araluen Art Centre, and the rest will be, once they're restored, some of them are in quite brittle condition as well. Once they are fully restored, they will go on display in the Museum of the Art Gallery of Northern Territory in Darwin and in Alice Springs. So these,
That's
really
going to be
is
a huge draw. It'll bring lots of people down just to see those alone.
And well, we certainly hope so. And I hope people can recognise the significance of these, what they mean to Central Australia, what they mean to the Northern Territory, but what they also mean to Australia.
We've had a question on Twitter from Flanzurine, which is, what are the different museums on offer in the Northern Territory? Who'd like to take that one?
Well, look, happy to. There's a number, as I alluded to before. If we start in Darwin, we've got the brand new Defence of Darwin exhibition. Some people might not be aware, but Darwin was actually bombed during the war, while we weren't sort of essentially 63 times in 42. Like I say, why Australia wasn't invaded per se. We were certainly attacked by the Japanese during the war, and Darwin felt the brunt of those attacks. So really quite significant military presence and military history around Darwin for the Allied forces in particular. And so there's the Defence of Darwin Museum, which is I said, brand new, but it's a wonderful exhibition. We've got the museum.
Interactive in the way that they...
Yeah, totally interactive, like the state-of-the-art interactive display, so it's terrific. There's also the Museum and Art Gallery of the Northern Territory, which has a huge science, so it's got the anthropological exhibition in there, which traces right back the Indigenous culture of not just the region, but also the Northern Territory, but also our art scene as well, so our visual arts, which is, as alluded to before, is really quite significant throughout the Northern Territory. So that's in Darwin. So that's the Museum and Art Gallery of the Northern Territory. Down the track there are a stack of smaller galleries, particularly through Katherine, and you get into Tennant Creek. And Alice Springs in itself has got one of the best art galleries you'll find anywhere, and it truly is. It's only small, but it's state-of-the-art facility. It has a number of exhibitions happening all year round. Right now we've got the famous Albert Namatjira Gallery, which is just open. Albert Namatjira, for those in the art scene would know, was one of Australia's premier artists, Indigenous artists from Central Australia.
Michael Turtle is, good day to you, Michael, is a well-known travel blogger. He lives in Cambodia and he hasn't been to the Northern Territories, and he is asking, can you give us an idea of what logistics are like for independent travellers in the Northern Territories? Can you just jump on buses between places, for example?
Yeah, sure. We haven't mentioned that. Look, there's a very effective and regular coach network certainly for that end of the market. So you can travel the length and breadth of the territory on express coach services as you can the rest of Australia. We obviously have the GAN. We haven't talked about that today, but the train journey between Adelaide and Darwin now, all the way through to Darwin, they sell reclining seats on the train as well. So there's options like that, and I think one of the ways that people really enjoy the territory is to drive themselves, and certainly be it in a camper van or in a hire car. It's a fantastic way to see the territory at your own pace, and we find people get probably the most fulfilment out of that. I mean, structured tours are sensational and certainly are suited to a particular segment of the market, but that free-spirited type traveller, there's any number of choices for them to really
It
enjoy
enables you
that.
to get under the skin.
Sure.
For European travellers, that can be quite daunting. The distances are very large, and I think people are aware that the Northern Territory is a place that is, glorious and glamorous,
Yep.
but it's also somewhere you've got to treat with respect. So, if you are driving by yourself, what do you say to travellers in terms of precautions and?
Sure. Look, having sort of been behind coaches and doing those camping tours I mentioned 30 odd years ago, and driving a lot in the Territory myself, it's really common sense, and there's some basic rules just to follow in terms of when you drive. In the evening, in the early mornings, you're likely to see more wildlife at that time of the day, and also cattle on the road and that sort of thing. So it's just being sensible about that. The distances, obviously, you just need to do a little bit of planning around your trip. It's 507 kilometres from Alice Springs to Tennant Creek, for example, which is heading north to Darwin. Then it's another 650 kilometres to Catherine. So
make sure you've got water for the car and water for yourself.
Understand the range of your fuel tank, and certainly water. Water is just a critical thing. So it's not like it's certainly not a perilous journey. It's just a trip that you just apply great common sense to. So but there's a few basic pointers, and I think our operators and our rental car operators and our camper van operators are very good in that respect. They certainly give people a lot of advice before they head off on a trip, and the locals will certainly give you advice as well. I think Territorians will always tell you where to go.
What was the one thing that you'd be happy if they couldn't see anything else? If they just had the one day in town, as it were, what would it be for you? What would you feel?
Well, I think I'd love to bring someone down to the centre of Australia. I think it's a totally unique experience. If you can experience, a Central Australian sunset or sunrise or both, if you're lucky, I think that sort of thing. In that time of the year that we discussed, around about sort of perhaps the autumn or the spring, when the weather is just absolutely perfect. I think that when you breathe that fresh air and that Central Australian air, there's not a drop of pollution in it. The sky is crystal clear. I'm talking like blue, like you've never seen. You contrast the green grass with the red rock, like deep red rock. We talk red like Uluru. We're talking that red, and that's what the countryside is like through Central Australia. I think when you can see that contrasting with the deep blue sky, I just think there really is.
Lit the imagination.
There is nothing like it. It's unbelievable. And if you can get a game of golf on the Alice Springs Golf Club while you're doing it at that time of year, that's pretty special. So,
Tony, what about you?
Well, I'll probably be a little bit more specific, but I agree with everything the Minister said. And I guess if you have the opportunity to sleep outside in a swag under the stars in Central Australia, you're very careful when you wake up in the middle of the night. You don't want to get up too quickly because you think you're going to hit your head on all these stars. It's just millions of them right on top, right in your face, and that's pretty special. And just that I guess silence of the bush is pretty phenomenal. But for me, Valley of the Winds at Catajuda has always been one of my favourite places in the world, not just in Australia. And certainly a little place out of Darwin, I probably shouldn't name particular operators, but Mount Borrowdale for me just encapsulates what is so special about the top end of our country. And I would say that's an absolute world beater, probably one of the best 6 things I've done anywhere in the world.
So thank you ever so much for joining us, and thank you both, Minister.
Absolute pleasure.
And Tony, CEO of Tourism
Thanks,
National Territory. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll do this again
Sure.
another time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much.